Welcome, everyone. Today's lecture explores how technology continues to reshape libraries. Just as history shows, every stage of library development, from clay tablets to cloud databases, has been driven by technology. Thinking about the future of libraries is, in many ways, thinking about the future of technology itself. We'll look at how past predictions shaped our understanding, examine key technology trends influencing libraries today, and imagine what's next for our collections, spaces, and staff. Before we jump to what's next, I want us to practice how to think about the future. The lesson from past predictions is simple. We're pretty good at extending what already exists, and pretty bad at imagining what doesn't. That bias matters for libraries. Here's my rule of thumb for futures work. Extrapolate cautiously from visible lines, networked access, miniaturization, voice interfaces. Assume they'll continue, but watch where they bend. Stress test assumptions that come from today's constraints. A century ago, people extrapolated telephones into data over wires, yet couldn't imagine general-purpose computing. We're doing the same with today's AI, projecting current systems forward while missing discontinuities like new interaction models or post-screen interfaces. Scenario planning beats single predictions. Build 2 or 3 plausible library futures: a mobile-dominant world, a privacy-regulated world, a platform lock-in world. Ask, what stays valuable across all three? Those are your resilient investments: metadata quality, discovery integration, flexible licensing, and staff who can redesign workflows on short notice. Hold those mindsets as we review trends. They'll keep us open to surprise rather than trapped by today's logic. 3 trend clusters shape our day-to-day strategy: access and discovery, collections, and computing devices. Access and discovery. If content can't be found, it might as well not exist. Our job is to push licensed resources into the pathways users already travel. General web search, course shells, discovery layers, concrete actions, ensure holdings are indexable in discovery services, expose structured metadata to search engines, implement link resolvers that respect entitlements, and tune site architecture so deep content is only a few taps away. The KPI here is usage uplift per surfaced resource, not just total page views. Collections. E-formats are at a tipping point. That doesn't mean print vanishes. It means we design for coexistence with friction minimized. Practical moves. Put print and e-holdings into a single request flow. Align purchase triggers with demand signals, syllabi, reading lists, interlibrary loan, and build format-agnostic discovery. The user chooses, not the interface. Computing devices. Smartphones are the default computer for many patrons. That pushes us toward cloud delivery, short session design, and resume where you left off behaviors. It also means if your authentication is clumsy on a phone, you've made your library inaccessible during peak usage windows. Mobile first is more than responsive CSS. It's a service model. Design every critical task to be achievable on a phone, one-handed, between classes, on campus Wi-Fi, or a shaky data plan. Responsive design, yes, but test tap targets, in-page search, citation exports, and PDF rendering on small screens. Seamless authentication. Reduce redirects and logins. Use single sign-on where possible and cache entitlements sensibly. If your proxy breaks deep links on mobile, fix that before you add features. Full functionality. Don't disable things on phones. If a user can't place a hold, download a chapter, or export citations from mobile, they'll abandon. Operational metric. Measure task completion rate on mobile for top 5 tasks. Find an article, get full text, place a request, chat with staff, pay a fine. If completion is less than 90% of desktop, you haven't shipped mobile first yet. Let's pause here and think about ebooks for a minute. When you borrow a physical book, it's simple. You find it, check it out, return it. But have you ever tried to get an ebook and found yourself clicking through 3 or 4 different links, each asking for a new login? That's what we call format fragmentation. Some titles open only in a browser, others demand a special app or an account with the vendor. Imagine being a first-year student trying to figure that out on your phone at midnight. How can libraries make that path smoother? The next challenge is licensing. A print copy can be shared indefinitely, but ebooks come with restrictions. Maybe only one person can read it at a time, or only a certain number of chapters can be printed? If a class of 30 students needs the same title, what do we do? Should libraries pay more for unlimited access or rely on fair use sections? What would you choose if you were managing the budget? Then there's purchasing models. Some publishers charge per checkout, others offer yearly subscriptions or perpetual licenses. Think about it like streaming services versus DVD ownership. Which model feels sustainable for a library's mission? We also hit presentation inconsistency. Every platform looks and behaves differently, some with tiny fonts, others without page numbers, and each with its own download rules. How do these differences affect the reading experience and user satisfaction? I'd like you to consider this. What would an ideal ebook system look like for you as a reader? Seamless access? Offline reading? Better citation tools? As professionals, how could libraries push vendors toward that vision without losing financial stability? These are the real-world tensions between access, equity, and economics that make digital collections both exciting and frustrating. Let's unpack them together. Think about how you usually hear from your library. Is it an email you almost miss, a post on social media, or a pop-up in your class site? Libraries today have to meet people where they already are, not where we wish they'd go. For some, that's text messages about due dates. For others, it's quick replies on Instagram or a chat bubble on the catalog page. But here's the bigger question. How do we stay personal when everything is automated? When does a notification become noise? Imagine getting a friendly message that says, "We saw you searched for data visualization. Here's a short guide our librarians wrote." That feels like help, not spam. Communication is no longer just about announcements. It's about micro moments of support. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. What kinds of communication make you feel genuinely supported, and which ones make you tune out? That's the line libraries need to find, being present without being intrusive. Let's pause and reflect on how much of ourselves we leave behind when we search, borrow, or browse online. Every time we log in through a vendor's portal or download an ebook, some data trail is recorded: what we read, how long we stayed, maybe even where we were. Libraries have always defended the idea that what you read is nobody's business. But in the digital world, that promise takes new effort. How do we protect privacy when most of our systems are run by third-party vendors? Should libraries choose platforms that track less, even if they offer fewer features? And then there's fair use, another tricky balance. Students often wonder, can I share this article with my group? Can I show this video in class? Libraries have to help people navigate those gray zones, not by scaring them with legal language, but by modeling responsible sharing. So think about this. If we overprotect content, do we risk limiting learning? And if we overshare, do we undermine creators? Where's that middle ground? Let's take a moment to think beyond the buzzwords. AI isn't just a tool we plug into our systems. It's a way of reshaping how knowledge is filtered, ranked, and represented. When a library catalog suggests a related title, that's a form of AI. When metadata is automatically cleaned, when facial recognition organizes a photo archive, when predictive analytics flag what users might want next, all of that is AI in action. But here's where it gets complex. Every algorithm carries an invisible value system. Someone decided what counts as relevant, what gets prioritized, and what gets hidden. If an AI ranks search results, whose worldview sits behind that ranking? Now imagine this. Two users search for immigration history. One might see scholarly works and oral histories, another mostly policy debates and government data. Both seem correct, but each reflects a different slice of the information ecosystem, shaped by data and training choices. This matters deeply for libraries because we exist to level the playing field, not reinforce invisible hierarchies of access. If AI begins deciding what knowledge is worth seeing, libraries must ask, how do we audit those choices? Some emerging ideas include building transparent AI systems where users can see why a result was ranked or recommended, using community-trained models that reflect local voices and cultural perspectives, not just commercial datasets, teaching AI literacy, helping patrons understand not just how to use AI tools, but how to question them. But there's another side we can't ignore: trust. Many people turn to the library precisely because it isn't commercialized or manipulative. If we begin using AI for recommendations, chat assistants, or cataloging, do patrons still feel the same sense of neutrality? Or does the presence of AI introduce suspicion, even if our intentions are good? Let's think critically here. What would an ethical AI in a library look like? Should it explain its reasoning? Should users have the right to opt out of algorithmic personalization? And most importantly, who should decide what good data means in a public knowledge space? This is where the conversation about AI stops being about code and starts being about culture. Libraries have always stood for transparency, equity, and human judgment. The challenge is keeping those principles alive as intelligence becomes automated. So, if you could design one AI feature for your library, one that genuinely improved discovery, access, or inclusion, what would it be and what ethical guardrails would you put around it? Close your eyes for a second and picture your local library. Do you see rows of bookshelves or do you see open areas, study pods, and glowing screens? The modern library is no longer just a place to consume information, it's a place to create it. You might walk in and see a podcast booth, a 3D printer, or a digital storytelling lab. These aren't just trendy extras, they reflect how knowledge itself is changing. But this transformation raises an important staffing question. Who helps patrons use this tech? Are we expecting every librarian to become an IT specialist, or do we bring in tech experts who learn library values? Maybe the future isn't about choosing one or the other, but about teams that mix skills. A coder who cares about access, a librarian who's curious about data science. So, think about this shift. When the building becomes a creative lab, what new kinds of expertise and empathy does a library need? We often talk about libraries as if they're in a tug of war, print versus digital, past versus future, but the reality is more like an orchestra, different sections, different instruments, all playing together. A student might pull a print book for quiet reading, stream a video for a class project, and use AI search to find supporting articles, all in the same hour. Our job is to make that seamless. If users have to think about which system they're in, we've failed them. The library of the future isn't defined by format, but by fluidity. It's not a place with fixed rules, but a place that adapts to how people learn, create, and connect. So maybe the big question for us isn't what will libraries look like in the next decade or so, but rather how can we keep them alive, responsive, and human no matter what technologies come and go.